Hi, my name is Hannah. Welcome back to my channel, Savage Reads, and this is a very exciting week. I am doing my first ever giveaway. I finished my bookshelf stitchery. I've got this little fun stitchery. Is it perfect? No. Is it a little fun? Yes. I am all done with this and I would love to give it away. Down below, I have the link to a Google survey that's just going to ask for a name, an email address, and a channel name if you have a channel, but you don't have to have one. If you are interested in me sending you this imperfect little stitchery, try to fill out the form before the end of this next week. I'll leave the form open for 1 week and then randomly select a winner to mail this to. But as projects go, I am taking a departure from the embroidery for a little bit and I am going back to knitting. So I am making a few baby onesies. So far, it doesn't look like much, but I've got kind of the top and then there will be little straps over it and this will go a little longer. And they're cute and they're little and I'm excited. So starting on that project and we'll see where that ends up. And those are the crafts that I have been working on. And now let's talk about the books that I have read the past week or so. The first book that I want to talk about was a recommendation from the amazing Caitlin at Bandy's Books. So make sure to go check out her channel. I will link it down below. And I read Davos Man, How the Billionaires Devoured the World by Peter S. Goodman. This book is a pretty great journalistic effort looking into how these people have amassed so much wealth, what they're doing with it, and how it's not always helping everyone. And it really illustrated the complete disconnect that these people have with the rest of the world. And it did explore a lot of what happened during the pandemic and how the pandemic really highlighted a lot of the pitfalls that our current economic system has, and how people were failed by both the governments and the extremely wealthy. So this book made me think of a couple other books that I had read recently. I read Moneyland, which talked about how some very wealthy people defraud governments, use really underhand ways to increase their wealth. And I also read The Value of Everything that talked about where we place value in society and how a lot of times we think that something is adding value to a community and instead is just extracting money from the everyday person. And so I thought having the background of those two books and then going into this book was really good at giving me kind of an overview of this topic. I appreciated that this book did have a few positive examples of communities and governments that are doing different things to support the people and support each other. And I thought that was really helpful. After reading this book, I did take a quick look at some of the negative reviews for the book, and a lot of them were saying, he's too mean to all the billionaires, they're not all like that. And I think that that missed kind of the point of the book. It's not necessarily that these people always have bad intentions or anything. It's that their priorities are to enrich both themselves and the shareholders and not to benefit humanity, no matter how much they say that that is what they are trying to do. And so I thought this book was really interesting. I do highly recommend it. I do think it paired well with The Value of Everything to realize that it's not really the billionaires that are the problem. It's a system that allows billionaires to exist in the first place. This book did come out in 2022, and so you might cringe a little when the author goes on about how, well, Trump was voted out of office and his era of politics has come to an end, and hopefully we will never see someone like him again because we'll never see him in office again. It had some of that going on, and you think, oh, you poor sweet child, wait a couple years and see what happens. But overall, really good read. I'm so glad I picked it up. Now, Melinda at A Web of Stories recommended the book The Rooster House, My Ukrainian Family Story by Victoria Belin. Now, this book came out in 2022, but was taking place in about 2014, and it is a woman who is going back to visit her family to try to uncover some of the things that happened with her family figure out her family history, and she wanted to go through and solve some of these family mysteries. And I love this kind of book. I love books when people are really searching out their roots, figuring out where they came from. I think that can be such a powerful thing. I mostly got from this book that I need to be talking to my parents and grandparents more, trying to get more information about their lives. I have some things from them, some books and some letters and some papers, but it can be so empowering to know where you came from and understand the stories that make up your family. And so I thought that the book was really good for that. At times I got a little bored. I didn't know if the narrative was super strong pulling me through. I felt my mind wandering just a little bit, but overall I really did enjoy this memoir. I think it was well done and inspiring. This next book was a recommendation from Scott at Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, and it is My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante and translated by Anne Goldstein. Now, this book was written in Italian, and it is taking place in a small town in Italy in I think about the 1950s. This is following two young women through their childhood and young adulthood, and also a neighborhood and how things are changing over time. At first, I looked at this book as a coming-of-age story, very typical, but in an interesting setting, very small Italian town. And so I thought, this is fun, it's a bit unique, but the way that this story ends up layering meaning and the way that it talks about the significance of little things, I can't get the thought of a pair of shoes out of my head after this. It was a beautifully told story. It really made you think about friendship. It made you think about the importance of education, the opportunities that different people have, the abilities that people are born with. I think it just had a lot in it in a very interesting setting. I haven't read many books that have taken place in a small Italian town. And so overall, this was 5 stars, just a beautiful novel. I highly recommend it. It definitely had that coming of age type feel where our main character, you can see her slowly becoming her own person. And I think it worked really well in this narrative. Now, my sister read the book Confessions by Kene Minato, translated by Stefan Snyder, and she wasn't sure if I was gonna like it. I decided to pick it up anyway, and I'm glad I did, but I can definitely see why this should come with some warnings. This book, I don't feel like I can say too much about it because it is that thriller, mystery, twists and turns kind of book, and you don't want to spoil it, but the basic premise is a teacher at the end of the school year says that she is leaving and won't continue the next year, and tells a little bit about why she became a teacher, why she was unmarried, and talks about the death of her young child. This book follows some different perspectives. I think the most common negative review that I saw scrolling through was that it is too repetitive, and I think that was one of the strongest things that this book had going for it. It told the same story 6 different times through different perspectives, and you really get a full view of everyone involved and what happened. And it is a story about revenge. The tagline is, "Her pupils killed her daughter, now she will have her revenge." So you get the different students, you get their perspectives, their intentions, and the people around them and what happened. Now, this book was gripping. You cannot put this book down. I needed to know what happened, but I was also so disturbed at so many points. And some of it comes down to the evil you know versus the evil you don't know. I think as this is a Japanese book, translated literature, yes, there are things that I am familiar with, having grown up in the US, of the evil nature that some children may have. But it feels so different in these Japanese schools, and I think it's because I was desensitized to a certain level of awful in my own schools, and then to see it in a different light, I think, well, I mean, I guess there's comparisons, but it feels really shocking in a lot of ways. And so culturally, I think there are some interesting things in this, and just this story had so many ins and outs, and you end up feeling disturbed and shocked and understanding where these characters are coming from. I think the only reason that this didn't really all the way work for me is that in a book of the sort, when there are books that are talking about killers and murderers, I think the victim needs to be given a full rounded humanity. And this book made the mother of the girl the victim and gave her all of that, but we never talked about the lost potential and the lost life, really, of that little girl. And you never felt like she was a person. You felt like she was something that was taken away from the mother, but not that she was her own person. And so that felt weird to me. And I don't know if I really loved that, but I think this book was really interesting how it was crafted. I have been a little wary to get back into some Japanese translated literature. I have had some good experiences and some bad experiences, but this was definitely on the better side. It is a very heavy topic, and so I think you definitely want to be prepared, especially as a mother. The topic of a death of a child can be really not something you want to go into, but this book was really well done. I do recommend it, just with those few caveats. I am a person who enjoys a mystery thriller every once in a while, and this one stands out as being different, but still really well constructed. And that is what I read the last week or so. If you have thoughts on these books, let me know in the comments down below. If you are interested in me mailing you an embroidery, make sure to check out the Google form that I will have linked down below. And I will see you all on the next one.